July 1588, 130 Spanish warships sailed toward England's shores under the command of King Philip II with 30,000 men, and what was supposed to be enough firepower to blast Queen Elizabeth I off her throne forever. While they would eventually lose to the English, the Spanish Armada was the biggest naval fleet of the time and was considered the Invincible Armada. Now, sure, the English don't need saving, but just for the fun, let's change one thing. Lurking beneath the waves sits something that shouldn't exist for another 400 years. The USS Seawolf, a nuclear-powered attack submarine from the 90s, armed with enough torpedoes to sink a fleet and technology to make Renaissance warfare look like a food fight. So, what happens when the most advanced submarine ever built faces off against the pride of Spain's Golden Age Navy? Let's find out. The USS Seawolf is 353 ft of pure democracy that costs more to build than Spain's entire armada. Its teardrop hull slices through water at roughly 40 mph underwater, faster than most Spanish ships could go with a hurricane in their sails. The USS Seawolf is packing 50 weapons in its torpedo room, including Mark 48 torpedoes that can literally break a ship in half from 20 m away. Each torpedo carries 650 pounds of high explosive and travels at 55 knots, guided by onboard sonar and a silicon brain, two technologies the Spanish of 1588 could never comprehend. Also on board is a nuclear reactor that produces 200 megawatts of power, enough to run a small city and never needs refueling. While Spanish ships depend on good weather and have to resupply every few weeks, the Seawolf can stay submerged for months, limited only by how much beef jerky the crew packed. Its sonar arrays can hear a shrimp sneeze from 50 mi away. And remember, we're in 1588 when long-range detection meant a guy with decent eyesight up in the crow's nest. This is basically cheating. The sub knows where every Spanish ship is before they even know there's an England to invade. Wrapped in encotic tiles that absorb sound, the Seawolf is impossibly quiet. To the Spanish Armada, it's invisible. Across the ocean, Philip II has sent the Invincible Armada. 130 ships, including massive galleons like the 100-ton San Martín, bristling with bronze cannons. These floating fortresses carry 2,500 guns total, though most are tiny anti-personnel weapons that are rendered useless against a submarine. The Spanish fleet sails in a defensive crescent formation perfected over decades of warfare. The plan is to get close, grapple enemy ships, and unleash 19,000 soldiers trained in hand-to-hand combat who have just conquered half of Europe. Leading this wooden behemoth is the Duke of Medina, Sidonia, a competent administrator who gets seasick and has never commanded a fleet before because apparently Spain thought invading England was a good time for on-the-job training. Supporting the Armada are the best sailors and soldiers of the Spanish Empire. These men conquered the Aztecs, dominated Italy, and control more of the planet than anyone else in 1588. They're tough, experienced, battle-hardened, and completely unprepared for what's coming. As dawn breaks on August 8th, the Spanish fleet approaches Grave Lines, recovering from last night's English fire attack. They're scattered, missing anchors, but still confident considering they outnumber this new English fleet 130 to 1. Who can blame them? 40 miles away, the Seawolf sonar tracks over 100 wooden contacts as they crash through the waves, making more noise than a kindergarten class. The submarine ghosts toward them at 20 knots, silent as death. The torpedo room crew loads the first Mark 48 into Tube 1. At 600, the Seawolf launches its first torpedo, a 3,400 lb smart weapon that streaks through the water at 55 knots, while its onboard computer analyzes the acoustic signature of its target, the flagship San Martín. The Spanish have no idea death is racing toward them at highway speeds. Hell, they don't even know what highway speeds are. 3 minutes later, the torpedo detonates directly under San Martin's keel. The 100-ton galleon literally jumps out of the water, its spine shattered and crashes back down to the water in 2 pieces. The Duke of Medina Sidonia and 400 men vanish into the channel in seconds. Before nearby ships can process what happened, 3 more torpedoes are already on their way. The Seawolf's crew works with practiced efficiency, and they have 8 shots before needing to reload. Spanish captains see their flagship explode from below with no warning and no enemy in sight. Some scream about sea monsters, others fall to their knees in prayer. A few of the smarter ones just start sailing in the opposite direction. The sub systematically targets the largest and loudest of the fleet, command ships and troop transports. Every 3 minutes, another torpedo launches, and every 3 minutes, another Spanish ship ceases to exist. It's tough to even call a battle. Within an hour, 15 major Spanish warships are gone, wiped off the face of the planet. Thousands of men who woke up expecting to conquer England are now asking their ancestors if they know what happened. The surviving Spanish try everything. They fire cannons randomly into the water. In other words, throwing rocks at a ghost. Some drop barrels of gunpowder overboard, hoping to hit whatever demons lurk below. One desperate captain orders his men to stab the ocean with pikes. It goes about as well as you'd expect. The Armada's famous crescent formation collapses faster than New Year's resolutions. Ships collide trying to flee. Captains order full sail north, south, anywhere but here. The most disciplined naval force in the world becomes a panicked mob, but even time-traveling death machines have limits. The Seawolf carries 50 weapons, not 130. After expending 30 torpedoes to sink the Armada's core, it has to get selective. The crew targets ammunition ships, creating spectacular fireworks as powder magazines detonate. By noon, what started as an invasion becomes a rout. Spanish ships scatter to every point on the compass. Some make for the Netherlands, others for France. Most just want to go home and pretend this never happened. The submarine shadows the largest group fleeing north, occasionally launching a torpedo just to remind them the ocean hates them now. Spanish morale shatters. When sunset arrives, the Spanish Armada as a fighting force no longer exists. 30 ships are confirmed sunk. Another 20 are on their way, and the rest are running for their lives. The channel is littered with wreckage, barrels, and many very confused or very dead sailors. Spanish survivors who make it home tell wild tales of explosions from below, invisible demons, and England's pact with the devil himself. The Inquisition very possibly tries switching to Satanism to make a pact of their very own. Put simply, they won't ever know what hit them. Spain never attempts another major invasion of England, not because they can't build more ships, but because sailors literally refuse to enter English waters. The haunted channel becomes a permanent psychological barrier. King Philip II dies convinced God abandoned Spain, and the devil is in cahoots with Protestant England. The Pope issues several bulls condemning whatever infernal weapon the English used, which is awkward since the Armada was destroyed before England heard they were on their way. England's naval reputation skyrockets without firing a shot, and the British Empire gets a 400-year head start on ruling the waves. The Seawolf, having deleted the Spanish Navy, likely with a few remaining torpedoes, could theoretically visit Spain and introduce the empire to democracy. But that's a different timeline. In our scenario, one submarine accomplished more in 8 hours than the entire 16th century. The Spanish Armada didn't just lose. It went extinct and left a trail of PTSD in its wake. If you're curious about what would happen if a modern tank fought at Gettysburg, check out the video on the screen now. And if you're curious what would happen if a Navy SEAL fought in the Colosseum, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching.